kids. Legend to me, and if you don't know who he is, you'll find out in a minute. I'm going to have him for about an hour. Here's his website. Here's his Facebook. And share it if you like it. Producer hacks the music a little early, gets the guest unmuted, slides. I'm talking like Silence of the Lambs. Now there you are, my handsome brother. What's going on? Welcome to the show, Frank Soda.
Well, nice to be here.
What are you up to these days, my brother? Let me just say before I say that, legend to me, man. Now, I don't know how many people come up to you and tell you that, but you played at a place called the Welland House down here in St. Catharines. A lot. I don't know how much. Maybe it seemed like a lot to me. And I was a high school kid in grade 9, sneaking in. I mean, I'm 6'4", so it was, I always looked older than my age. All my friends were way older than me. And we used to go there all the time. My dad actually had vending machines in that place. And that place used to bring in local talent, or just talent, but they came in for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday night. So you got to see, back in the day, it was Clearlight, was a Pink Floyd cover band. Green River was a CCR band. There's so many bands that we used to see, and we'd be front center. FM and Nash the Slash. Wow, some of my favorite.
What about Rheingold?
Yeah. No, I don't remember those guys.
Yeah.
I don't remember a lot from those days, but we were, get to a point where we're dropping acid and sneaking beers in. And then I pretty much lived at the Welland House when I was a kid. I spent so much time there. And then one year I ended up at the Welland House for New Year's Eve. And I remember thinking, well, you're a loser, dude. You live in this place. You're here every day or every weekend or whatever. And now you're here for New Year's Eve. I was with my girlfriend and you were playing. And it wasn't, I was going there anyways, though. It didn't matter who was playing, but you were playing. So I don't know if that's the only time we spent New Year's together, but that's the time that I remember. And we're talking, we got to be talking 84, 83, something like that, man. So to me, man, the name Frank Soda, and I was kind of amped up last night and I had a couple friends over. I'm like, dude, you remember Frank Soda? And they're like, Frank Soda? Yeah, Frank Soda, yeah. So anyways, thank you for your time, man. You're so generous. You're very kind to say, yeah, I'll do your show. So I appreciate that. Thank you, my brother. Just tell us a little bit about what Frank Soda's been up to these days.
Well, basically with this pandemic and stuff, musically and everything else, been trying to just get into my garage and studio and dig up old songs that have been sitting there for like 25 years and seeing what I can finish, that type of idea, as far as finishing, songs and stuff. But for live, there's not much going on at all, especially out here in Vancouver. And even when I moved out here from Toronto, the music scene over here was more or less like I ended up playing like cover stuff, more or less as far as the original, Mm-hmm. So I ended up doing more of that. And now that when the COVID hit, I says, I'm going to get into that computer and dig up stuff. So that's what I've been trying to do, is just piece together stuff that I can actually finish, and be proud of,
Awesome.
Yeah.
So where did it all begin for you, Frank? Just for people that don't know, and like I said, I don't know you as a man. I've seen you perform. I know you carry a name in the music industry. I know you get some real connected friends and some musically genius friends. But where did it all start for you?
Well, basically, I grew up in a town up northern BC, Kitimat. My dad had immigrated from Italy years before, and we grew up in that town, and there was not a heck of a lot to do. So we started. The Beatles came out, of course, and bang, we started picking up guitars. Now, my dad, he was actually a musician himself, and he had been in the war, like in England. He was a prisoner of war there. Learned to speak very good English and write English stuff. So he was kind of ahead of his time there. But for some strange reason, like, he always wanted to keep us away from. He always thought, "Oh my God, he's getting into guitars and stuff." And that was the days when there was, drugs, long hair. So you got to stay away from that stuff. So he tried to keep me away from it, but he actually couldn't. So I was sneaking out and playing all the time, and then finally he ended up buying me my first SG guitar. So he kind of gave up on me. He says, academically, this guy's not going to be a lawyer or a doctor or whatever. So I ended up just packing my guitar and just traveling up and down BC doing cover stuff.
All right.
In all the bars, because you could play there like 5 nights a week, literally in the bars there. It was a great training session for musicians. I found in BC, you could just go to the next hotel, play for 5 days. You have a room, place to stay, and it was also a good way for the band, to sort of tighten, get tight and play together, and then, develop from there. So I found that was a really good training ground, and there was a lot of great musicians like up north, in like the Terrace Kitimat area. People like Jim Balance grew up there, and my drummer from the Imps used to play with him, and there was musicians like Skip Press would come from, who ended up playing with Sweeney Todd later. He ended up coming up and playing with some of his bands, and Kevin Nickel, and just many guitarists and musicians that would come and travel up and down BC. It was a great time to do that, and you could just learn a lot just by going from hotel to hotel, and then learning new songs, and then getting better at your instrument and your craft.
So how old are you in these days when you're going up and down the coast?
Pardon?
How old are you these days when you're going up and down the coast? When
I was going up and down there, I was in my. Well, I started like I was about 17 or 18, around that time. And Thor came out from, he came from Hawaii to do a show up in Kitimat. We were just teenagers, and we had to be his backup band, So we started around, like 17, 18, around that time anyway. Can't remember the exactly, but we were his backup band at the chalet in Kitimat, which is a hotel there, kind of. And from there, I just ended up, hitting the road, because you could go down and go from it was Terrace, Kitimat, Prince Rupert, Prince George, and all the way down right down to Vancouver, And so it's about that time that I started, just like I say, just packed on my guitar, and I basically lived on the road,
Mm-hmm. So you building your craft while you're touring as a young guy?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. That's what I did. Because my dad didn't want me to play when I was going through high school, he always tried to push me into well, you got to study, you got to do this, you got to do that. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So I never really got into it. And it's unfortunate, because he could read and write music, and he would play in the orchestra there. He played violin, and he played guitar and stuff. But he never pushed me that way, So because he always thought I was just trying to do everything by ear, and you're sitting there and you're trying to slow down like a Zeppelin album or a Santana, and trying to figure out what he's doing.
Mm-hmm.
And in a way, I kind of missed out a lot, because later when I hit the road, I got books out and I studied, like some classical and some theory and things like that, and I had to do that all on my own.
Mm-hmm.
So if you would have kind of encouraged me a little bit earlier, I thought that I probably could have, like sped up my learning. These days on YouTube, you can just boom, open it up, and your five-year-old kids can play that stuff. But
Mm-hmm.
when we were doing that, man, you had to sit there and pick out every little note. What's he doing? How's he bending this? And that type of idea. So it was a real good learning. Like I said, it was a very a good learning ground, for us, playing these clubs.
Mm-hmm. So
And
did
then
you?
sitting up in our hotel room, like I said, during the day, nothing else to do, but
Right.
pick up our instrument,
So
and girls.
did you ever have like a career or a job in the background, or have you always made music your industry?
Well, no, I tell you what I did was when I left Kitimat, I never had a job at all. The only thing I did was in Kitimat, there's a aluminum plant up in Kitimat, and people would work there, and then they would make enough money so they could say take the summer and just travel or do stuff. I think I worked there just for a little while, just to grab enough money so that I could hit the road. Like
Mm-hmm.
maybe grab pay for the rest of my amp that I had at the time or whatever, and then that's all I did. So that's the only job I had. And every once in a while, when we were traveling up and down BC, like for those years, those years in the 70s, if something would happen, I would always have to go back home or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
My mom would say, no problem, we're welcome there, and I'd bring the band sometimes. She'd cook for us, that type of thing. So I never really had a job,
Right.
the odd time I would pick up extra money, like I was playing a place in, I think it was Burns Lake or something, and I was running out of money, so the guy that we were playing at his hotel, the Burns Lake Hotel, I can't remember, I think that was the name of it, but and he said, well, maybe in the afternoon you can go there and sell ice cream or something like that, during the afternoon or something like that. So I did something like that to pick up some extra money, but never did anything. And then I just ended up, like when Thor said, let's go to I had been traveling up and down BC for quite a few years.
Okay.
But say a few. And then he said, let's go to Toronto, because he had this recording type of possibilities and all these things like that.
Okay.
And ever since then, I just made a career out of music. We just traveled and played. And then, of course, I started recording, and then it got better and better, until I semi-retired when I came out to Vancouver, though. When my dad got ill in the late 80s,
Okay.
he got very ill. And then I had to make a decision. So I had to kind of uproot from Toronto.
Mm-hmm.
So in the late 80s, early 90s, when I moved here, I didn't really want to, per se, tour. I was kind of, burnt out a bit from it anyway, by that time, after having recorded albums and toured and did all that. And then I ended up getting like a part-time like day job over here, but still played music as well too. So that's the only time I ended up doing something that was a day job, was when I moved back to Vancouver.
So how long abouts are you in Toronto then? How long did you pull the circuit down in Toronto then? How many years?
Well, in Toronto, I was there from like I was there like almost till I left from the mid 70s right up till the late 80s.
Wow.
I was there.
Wow. Okay.
But like I said, but towards the late 80s, I was touring the same old show, and I was getting a bit tired of it myself too. You know what I mean? Because you can only blow your head up so many times. By that time you wanted to do something. And I remember this specifically in the mid 80s, somewhere around there, I was playing with Brian Gagnon was playing with me in the band. And he what he did was he would take his little studio on the road, and he would always say we should spend more time in the studio and recording and doing things, because he had come from a band called The Hunt. I don't know if you ever heard of them. They were a local Toronto band.
Mm-hmm.
And I got together with him and Glenn Grotto was the drummer. And they had played together before in a band called Bull Rush years and years earlier. Now, we ended up touring and we had a good following. So we'd tour across Canada and we could support a big road crew. We could support like a video crew. We could support like, our manager and everything else. And everyone was making good money at the time. So, so we kind of didn't want to disrupt that, but Brian Gagnon said, I think I'm going to go back. I'd like to go back after this tour and just start recording. And that's kind of one of the things I probably should have done more of. I should have just said, you know what, let's just go back and just, do some more recording, get him more involved in that, because he became super good at being an engineer, producer, and doing stuff. So I wish I would have done a bit more of that, because right now, even in my studio at home here, like I'm good for doing demos, but I always go to my friends that are very, very good engineers and stuff, and and they're just so much more knowledgeable with that,
Right.
Yeah.
So where did the Frank Soda show that I know, Soda Man, where did that inspiration all come from? I think that when I saw you, I remember like a Jack in the Box head that you wore, but I've seen the TV. I've seen, you say, how many times can you blow up your head? I asked you to do that for me today. I guess you're not going to do that. I don't see. But where'd that whole the image and the branding and specifically the blowing up the head at the end of the show, where'd that all come from?
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what happened was it came when we first hit Toronto and we were playing like with Thor. We used to open the show. The Imps used to open the show. Now, he had a very theatrical show. Like, I mean, I wish we would have had, like cell phones back then, because he did have a fabulous show, like, entertainment wise. He would like, pick me up, and I had a long corridor. I was wireless, and he, grab me with one hand and literally lift me over his head while I was playing the guitar solo, run out in the audience. He would break bricks over his chest, like someone from the audience would come up and smash him with a with a sledgehammer and things like that, right? And of course, strobe lights and lights and all that stuff. And he also would blow up hot water bottle till it burst. And anyway, people just loved that show. So when we opened up for them, I thought, well, geez, he's doing this fabulous show when he comes on. So when he was out doing other things, we had to develop, something for ourselves, so the Imps, and that the whole blowing up the head stuff actually came from an original song I had, which was called TV People.
Oh.
Yeah, it was called TV People, and it was about kind of getting brainwashed by television, which kind of we all do, and everything else, that's what it's all about, really, just for commercials and stuff. So I had that image in my head, and we were on our way to a gig, and I said, Jesus, there was a TV lying on the side of the road. I said, I just said to myself, we should gut that out and, experiment. Maybe I can blow that up on my head. It would be funny. And it was just talk. Next thing we actually did it. We took it apart, gutted it out, and just put it so it fit on my head. Yeah. And then we actually put the flash bomb, because we had seen like some of the concussion cannons that Kiss used, like around that time, because that was our first introduction to Toronto. Was Thor. And the Imps were presenting Kiss with their gold album at Maple Leaf Gardens and stuff. And when their show came on and these cannons came on, they were so bloody loud. I said, how did they do that? And it was this concussion powder that they would put in, But I said, I don't want to blow my head right off. So we kept putting it further away until the right kind of the right mixture wouldn't sort of jolt the guitar, so it ripped my head off. And then I put it on my head, and ever since then, you know, there started the exploding heads.
Wow, man. So the inspiration was you gotta keep pace or try to outdo. Well, you couldn't outdo Thor probably in those days, but that's where you had to keep pace with him, eh?
Well, basically, like it was one of those things where I always felt like you go to a show, you know, and yeah, the band can stand there and play, but it was always like, you know, when someone always did something that, you know, I kind of enjoyed it too. Like if I see someone on stage and he's doing something a bit different, you know, it was funny. I mean, I went maybe overboard with all the heads because I said, Jesus, you know, I blew that one up. Now I had a song called Moon Man and I had the big round ball. I was, oh yeah, we'll blow that up too. And it became one of those things, you know, but in a way, like the show kind of like, you know, took over like the music in a sense, if you know what I'm saying. The show was good, the musicians were good, the imps were a good tight like band, but we went too much show. It was 80%, 90% show, as opposed to us just coming back and just working on the music. You know, that's what I found. I didn't do enough of that. You know.
Interesting. Who was your drummer, man? Your drummer was filthy. I went back in the archives on YouTube last night and just, oh man, some of those old tunes. I never had a Frank Soda album, sorry. But I was like, everything for me, it was live entertainment, right? So who was playing drums on the majority of your gigs?
You know what? Unfortunately, you know, this is a very sad story in a sense. Like I'm going to tell you about John Lechasseur was his name in the Imps, right? He's the guy that we all headed out. Me, Charlie Towers, and John Lechasseur were the Imps. We were called. We were headed out, and we were Thor's backup band. And then later we got our own 5-album deal with Quality Records and all that stuff like that. No, that was the original band. It was John Lechasseur was the drummer. He's the fella that was when I met him. He was playing with Jim Balance up in Terrace. He would play drums for Jim while Jim would play piano for certain acts that would come to town. And him and his brother was a singer, and they would get together with Jim Valance, and they have these bands, and they have fun, you know, playing and singing together and doing stuff. So that's when I met him, and I thought, wow, this guy's a fabulous drummer. So when we got the invite from Thor, he was my first guy to call. You know, like I played with him before, and then you know, fast forward to a few years back, you know. We kind of sort of reunited again because we had separated for quite a while, you know. We had reunited. He had moved back up north and he was doing sort of well. And then I'd heard that he'd had a heart attack and stuff, but then we kept in touch, you know. He says, oh yeah, I had one, but he was doing fine. And we reunited to do a benefit that I do here every year for the Liver Society. We get local bands like from Prism, you know, to well, Lee Aaron did it, you know, like and all the bands, Ray Roper and Stone Bolt, and we do it to raise money for that charity. And I says, well, let's reunite and do like an Imps thing, you know. So actually, when he came up, we started talking about, well, let's just do let's get back and doing a couple of songs about the old days. We talked about this and that, and we were actually doing it. And then he had a massive heart attack. I guess almost going on 2 years now. Oh, wow. And he didn't make it. You know, so it was sad. But he was the drummer there. John Lechasseur was the guy, and he, to this day, like, he was a phenomenal musician. Not only a good drummer, but he was very good, like, as far as writing and doing stuff, like in the studio. You know, like, creating ideas. He was fantastic.
Last night when I was going through a bunch of your old tunes, it occurred to me that there's some sort of thread that's woven through Canadian music. It's almost like you can hear it. I don't care if you're talking, you know, April Wine or Trooper or even maybe Max Webster, but so many of these Canadian bands had a real feel, I don't know how to describe it, but it's almost like you could say, oh, that's a Canadian sound right there. Do you ever notice that? And what do you think it is?
Gee, that's hard to pinpoint. I do notice that the Canadian bands have that. I just think that the American bands or other bands just have more of a something that they, you know, they have something that in their mind that they have to create, and it's been done before or whatever. But the Canadian bands, like I said, I mean, like look at Larry Gowan's song "Criminal Mind." Who would have thought that would have been a hit? You know, and then you go on to something like April Wine, and they do very commercial songs, commercial sounding. Yet to me, they're cool. You know, so I think that's the only way I can describe it is like. It's a cool way to make Canadian bands have a cool way of making a commercial song sound good, you know, something like that. Because it's if you listen to some of the songs, they're almost like, yeah, that's a hit, if you know what I mean, you know. But like I said, I think that the Canadian bands just they have their own way of just taking like the British, the American, and just everything, you know, kind of, you know, it's the Canadian way. That's all. I guess that's all I can think of, you know.
Now I know you've got many friends in the business. Tell us a little bit about your Max Webster friendship, and who is it? Is it Wilkinson on drums there?
What Terry Watkinson?
Watkinson, yeah, sorry.
What
I should be better
player,
prepared for my interviews. Watkinson. I should know that because I was a huge Max Webster fan. A friend of mine, Mike Dixon, still plays in town, called Loud Shirts. He had a connection with the art director, Rush's art director. I think him and Mike were fans, and Mike he worked at the beer store, and he had that huge mustache. He was on Moving Pictures. In the artwork, and a friend of my family worked with Mike Dixon at the beer store, and that friend brought over Moving Pictures for me. That was almost where it all started for me for rock and roll in the early 80s. And Jim Feschuk was his name, and he gave me this album, and he says, you know, this is the new acid rock. It's really not my thing. And acid rock, I didn't know what the hell that was, but he introduced me to that, and then the crossover with Rush on the UJ album with Battle Scar was, oh man, that was just mind blowing. But who were some of your friends that you collaborated with and maybe were inspired by back in the day?
Well, put it this way. When I first hit Toronto, I saw Rush and Max Webster. Max Webster opened up for Rush. And as soon as I saw them, I thought, yeah, Kim Mitchell was the guitar player. You know, to me, that he was the guitar player that I would sort of try to emulate, because he was a studied guitar player. He was cool. He was funny, if you know what I mean, and it just he was an all around, like you know, like to me that he was the guy that took sort of the element of playing guitar like a flashy, if you know what I'm saying, but yet he made it cool and funny, that type of thing. You know, he had that Frank Zappa thing in there, which I really liked. You know. So he was one, you know, definitely when I hit Toronto, that he was an influence to that. But when I was just, you know, actually starting to actually play guitar, like I said, I was listening to like Jeff Beck or say, you know, blues guitar players, and also like Led Zeppelin, of course, you know. But I would say like Carlos Santana, you know, they're very blues based, you know, stuff, and yet when in the 70s, like I said, it's hard to say what is that guy doing there. We had to sit there and really listen to the album, like I was saying earlier, and guys like I say, Kevin Nickel would come up. These guys from Vancouver would come up, and they'd be so much more advanced. So I learned from people like them. And Skip Press, I always watched and admired him. I said, "Wow, he's so cool. He plays guitar so well." And he was, you know, and I would steal his licks and see what they're doing. So it was more or less because you really couldn't see like Jimmy Page live then, if you know, all the time. You know, these are the guys that I sort of built on. You know, I you know, see what they're doing and pick up from there, and then piece together more ideas and more scales and things that and licks that they were doing. But like I say, when I first hit Toronto, even over Alex Lyson, it was Kim Mitchell for sure.
Wow, that's awesome. Now, I find that music seems to be about what we're passionate about, obviously, and it seems like for most rock and roll, just about any type of music, it's I'm falling in love, I've got a broken heart. I'm falling in love, I'm falling out of love. I don't know that your music fits in that category. What did you find yourself writing? And I've seen you, it's funny that you brought up Frank Zappa, because I've seen you referred to as the Canadian Frank Zappa. I know you had some great humor with some songs that were topical, and we're like, what's he really talking about here? What'd you find yourself?
The funny thing is that it's kind of like sort of when someone relates you to someone like Frank Zappa, I mean, you can't even compare, someone, me to someone like that. But to be honest with you, a lot of the stuff that I was doing then, I could have gone that route, Frank Zappa. I had that mindset that I would like to do it, but some of the songs, like I was writing songs like The Perverted Pinocchio, for example, stuff like that, that would never get recorded.
Right.
And it was all about like a girl saying, lie to me, blah, blah, blah. You know what would happen then, and I can set up the scene. I had songs like that. And to be honest, like I say, during this lockdown, I've been digging up some of the old songs, and that's one of them that came up, The Perverted Pinocchio, or all these old weird songs that I was writing. But record companies are not gonna record that, so that's why I had to go with the High Times, Saturday Night Getaway, and things like that. Like, But the Frank Zappa stuff, getting sort of compared to someone like that. I mean, he had his whole life was about like that. Totally, I couldn't even come close to doing anything like that in the ballpark of what he did.
What do you mean specifically? His whole life? What do you mean?
Pardon?
What do you mean about that? His whole life was that? I know he's a musical genius and put a lot of time into it, but what do you mean his whole life?
Well, that guy basically, he would just sit there and eat, sleep, and just and do music all the time. That's all he did,
Okay.
And he had that mindset where he didn't want to have any restrictions, if you know what I'm saying.
Right.
Like he was a guy that would go to when they had these people that would complain about like getting censored, when you said the F word, or that type of thing. Jesus, the F word, that's the first word I learned. You know what I mean? But he would say no holds barred. There shouldn't be any censorship like with music, and music's not going to make you go kill somebody, that type of idea. So his whole catalog of stuff, if you listen to his whole catalog of stuff, it's just like he just had an open sort of slate, and he just did what he wanted to do, word wise, and he had the writing that he did, was fantastic. Even the jamming that he did over the songs was fantastic too. But those little jazzy little things that he put in, and all those runs and stuff, you could tell you have to work hard at that. You have to and I just wasn't that type of guy. I wasn't that disciplined to go sit there and chart everything out. I was more or less the type of guy that would just get an idea for a song and then just sort of play around it, where he would it seemed like he wrote everything down, because even later I learned that Steve Vai, that phenomenal guitar player, was actually writing it down, like note for note. So he was one of those type of musicians, really dedicated to that. And I was more or less, the opposite in that sense. I would write down some ideas and stuff, but I would just kind of jam around it. I was never the type of guy. I hated having to learn a song note for note, because if you learn a song note for note and you make a mistake, everyone will know it. But if you're doing your own thing and you can say, no, I meant to do that note, It's you think it's a bad note? Well, it's my note. I was always that type of guy.
So again, what are the inspiration for some of the songs? And I know you got a wicked sense of humor, and that plays through into the lyrics and the music and stuff like that. So what did you find yourself inspired to write about?
Well, the funny thing is that even now, as I'm digging up through old songs that I haven't finished yet, I'm just trying to figure out which ones that I do want to finish. And there's two different reasons. You write a song for the sake of like creating a really good song, and you forget about like the Frank Soda image, or you forget about if you're Led Zeppelin or whatever. You just try to write that song, So for me, when I was recording back in the day, when I had the album the Saturday Night Getaway, or I was doing the recording for Quality Records, I would just come up with ideas like with what happened to me when I burned my head. I remember someone making a joke about it, like you got to get a skin graft, that type of idea. So that's how that whole song started. You got to get a skin graft. And I said, well, they're going to take the skin from my ass and put it on my face. You know what I mean? And that's how that started. But it's not a song that I would say, I'm going to write this song and present it to somebody. That was the closest song that actually got recorded that is sort of like that. So that's where I'd get my inspiration from mainly. High Times, a song like High Times came from just it was just basically the feeling of getting high. I mean, everyone that smokes pot it knows that feeling, and everything else. So that's what I did was when I says, well, what I'll do is I'll just put a joint in the pig there and smoke it because everyone's getting high. So everybody thought it was about like marijuana and stuff, but really it was just about, having getting high on life, basically, So that's what, but I needed something to blow up on my head. So that's, so that's why I put that pig on.
So you actually had a close call with the experimenting with the flash bomb on top of the whatever you were blowing up?
Oh yeah, well that was at the gasworks, and
oh, wow.
The gasworks. It was at the gasworks, and little did we know. I mean, the gasworks they have gas pipes up there, like in the ceiling and stuff apparently. But I was blowing stuff up there all the time, and the gasworks, which is a famous Toronto bar. It was one of those ones where I says I probably shouldn't be blowing up because the ceiling is so low. And some of my musician friends on the road would say, "Hey Frank, we noticed your soda stains. They call it soda stains on the ceiling because it would blow up and leave a big like dark mark." So at the gasworks one night, I always said we have to make sure that the flash only goes a certain height. If you know what I mean. You don't want to like hit the gas pipes, and in case there's a leak or something coming out of there, man, you'd blow that whole place up or something. So, but what ended up happening one night, of course, a little alcohol mixed in with this and that, and blah blah blah, and I had that round moon man on my head.
Oh, that's what it was. Okay.
It was the round moon man this time. That's what it was, because when I got it on, I can barely see anything. Right. And that's one of the reasons when I'm wearing that on my head, it was actually pretty heavy and I had to balance it. That's why I got a bloody neck degeneration. I'm in pain all the time now. The neck is killed because I had to balance this huge. It was actually an old mirror ball with the mirrors taken off.
Really?
And then I had somebody. It was an old huge mirror ball that I that the actual mirrors were taken off, and then someone painted a moon man face on it, and then I gutted the bottom part out and I put my head in there, and then while I was wearing it I had to balance it, so like it really puts a strain on here, and like I say, now I'm feeling it all the time, but that's just one of the reasons probably why I got this neck pain. But a long story short, the roadie had been drinking a bit too much, and instead of putting the regular dose in, he actually put a bit extra that night. I don't know what it is. Maybe it was an accident. I'm not sure. When I put it on my head, though, I noticed that I could feel things like the powder actually on my face. I could feel it like falling out before it was blowing. So I was trying to get the road crew would blow the bomb up from the soundboard, you know?
Right.
So I was trying to get their attention. Hey, don't blow it up, you know, because like I said, I feel something going on in here. So I had one hand on the bottom of it like this, and I was trying to signal to them. They probably thought, oh yeah, blow it up, and they blew it up.
Wow.
But thank God I had my hand on there, because sure enough, that powder was actually falling down as the powder went off. It was blowing up inside, and I pulled it off just in time. But it burnt my hair, it burnt my eyelash, my eyebrows never did grow back after that. And I closed my eyes, thank God. So nothing happened there. But that's what was that skin graft thing was about. It was very close. I saw a big flash in front of my eyes, and I thought, oh, this is it. Wow. And I could smell the burnt skin. But I thought, dude, how bad is it? Is what I thought to myself. Is it going to be like, you know, should I go to the hospital bad? Which I ended up doing, but it wasn't it didn't go deep enough, thank God, you know, in the skin. But like the hair just kind of fell off like this. It's like, woof, it's just like that, you know. But it was one of those. That was the scariest moment. After that, never again did that happen, because you know that was too close for too close for comfort, for sure, you know.
Wow, man. After that, you must have been just really apprehensive about them pulling the trigger on the bomb.
Well, no, I always checked it myself. That's what I did. That's the mistake I made, you know, before. Who cares? You know, you're just out partying and blah, blah, blah. And, you know, and the crew would do it. And it's not even their fault. Sometimes they thought that it was, when you're putting it in, you know, it's the right amount, da-da-da. But when you're moving around, all of a sudden it starts spilling. That's not good, you know?
Dude, you're just way too much committed to your craft. You're just the ultimate craftsman, because I would stop the show and say, okay, guys on the soundboard, I'm having some issues here. Don't pull the trigger on that bad boy. We'll finish this song out. Sorry, you get no bomb tonight.
You know what? That is the problem. I couldn't go to the mic and talk because my head was inside that.
Oh, right, because you can't sing when the thing's on there.
Right?
Yeah.
And you mix that with the gas works, people just drinking and just waiting for it to blow up, and everyone drunk out of their minds, smoking doobs and going crazy, right?
Yeah.
And he thought I was waving, let's go, right? Yeah.
What a story, man. How did you escape the drug and booze trap, or did it get you? I mean, I know how hard it is. Well, I don't know how hard it is on the road but I know what it's like when you have that influence around you. Everyone's doing it. It's kind of part of the industry. You're a musician, you drink, you do drugs. Like, how did you escape not going down that rabbit hole?
Well, you know what, with me, it was like, I grew up with you know, an Italian family that we had wine all the time, if you know what I mean. And if there was beer there, it was, you know, you could have a beer, you know. They just felt like, you know, you're going to find your own water line. You know, you'll know when to stop and when to. I mean, I had some of my relatives would be able to just drink like crazy. You know, others wouldn't. But you'd have to find your water line. You know, that type of thing. So I always sort of had that sense myself. I would know. I would, you know, be on stage and going, gee, I think I did a bit too much this night. I'm not doing that again. You know. And I would, you know, for example, you know, like, I mean, one night, too much drinking, I could have fallen and cracked my leg, because I would jump on tables, you know, back in those days. So you kind of have to sort of say to yourself, you know, where's my limit? And I had to find that. So with me, it was like, it started off that some of my fellow crew members, they would be taking like literally bags of pot on. I mean, you know, like one of those garbage bags full of pot on the road, you know, and they would taking that and they would sell it, you know, and you know, to make money, to do stuff, and then I would just see them, you know, like they would sleep all day, you know. It was one of those things, and I said, I just don't want to do that, you know. So I said to myself that, I mean, there's a time for you know, for smoking or whatever it is, but if they're doing it like that, I says, I don't want to be doing that, you know. And then some of the other fellas, they would be into the blow, and things like that. And I found that I was involved with some friends that would come out to gigs all the time, and I would snort the odd thing here and there, of course, and they would say, yeah, there's some good stuff coming in and blah, blah, blah. And they got involved in that part of it, in getting it shipped in and all that, right? And so, it was to a point where you're getting high and you're snorting and you're doing this and doing that. And then it comes a point where you got no money left, if that type of idea. And I said, well, it's one of those things where I'm not going to spend the rest of my life just, chasing that, And then around that same time, those friends that kind of got involved in getting stuff shipped in and selling and doing stuff. Well, one guy was found, a guy that I knew very well, was found dead with a bullet in his head.
Wow.
In his place. And that woke me right up.
Wow.
And this was a guy that hey, every time I'd come to the gasworks, he was there, and we knew each other like personally, right? And he had got involved in that. And I always used to say to him, geez, I could never do that. You got to watch that. That's, it's scary stuff. You're getting this shipment coming in or da-da-da. And then, of course, to sell it, they would cut it, you know what I mean? And do stuff like that. But I just says, I don't know. I don't want to get involved in that. Anyway, but when that happened, I just totally changed. I went on the road, and I would go, and I started running to get away from everything, And my friends would be out there like waking up and smoking and doing stuff. I'd be out there running 10 kilometers a day, and then I'd come back, It would help me with my writing. It would help clear my head. So that was my therapy, like during the 80s when I started touring later to get away from all that,
So how old do you think you are when you made that decision to start running from the drugs, almost literally?
I would say, I think I did it when I was pretty young. I started thinking about it. You know what I mean? I started knowing when to kind of stop. When some of my friends, friends and acquaintances, they didn't know when to stop. I thought I did that towards my, getting on to my late 20s, I guess.
Okay.
I guess late 20s. Yeah. I started thinking that way, but I think it was like, I think it was about like 28 when that friend that I knew that got shot. It was something to do with a gang kind of thing for sure.
Well, yeah, when a buddy of yours gets shot in the head, that's a freaking wake up call if I've ever heard it.
That was a wake up call, and like I said, and then also, I had, like I said, my road manager would, like I say, they would be selling stuff and doing this, and I never got involved in that at all because I just, that's just not me. I can party, I can do whatever, but you got to know your limit when you party,
Yeah, especially if you're going on stage and it's affecting how you're coming across or how you're playing or whatever. If you take your craft that seriously, then you don't want any interference.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Talk to me about how the music business has treated you. Are you still to provide everything that you needed to sustain yourself? Is it still providing some level of income for you?
Well, no. Well, with me, it's like this. When I moved over from Toronto, I had to make a decision. I was playing with the guys I started playing with. They're still friends of mine, but they're playing with Bachman, Randy Bachman,
right?
And also some of my old friends. It's so funny because some of my old friends from Toronto are playing with. They're called the Carpet Frogs. Are playing with Britton Cummings, So they stayed 100% in the business, and they make a living at it and everything else. But at the point when I came in the late 80s, early 90s, I played a little bit. I would go back to Toronto and play and do this, but it wasn't the same old thing. It wasn't like Frank Soda's going on tour. I mean, people had forgotten the stuff I used to do and everything else. And it's not like I'm gonna tour anything new and whatever. And I kind of wanted to get away from that. So the best thing I did was I was at a gig, I think it was Coconuts here in Vancouver, and I was telling my friend that he had just moved. Well, he wasn't a friend, but he became a friend. But he came up to me and said, "Frank, I saw you in Ottawa. I was in Ottawa there, and blah blah blah." And he says, "So how do you like it here in Vancouver?" I says, "Well, I like it here." I says, I don't feel like traveling too much anymore. I got a family, you got this and that." And he says, "Well, listen, I'm a supervisor at Canada Post." They says, maybe, you should think about doing this and that, maybe get in, you can get a part-time, gig there. And then you don't, make a long story short, I ended up putting my resume in, and he said, "Well, you got to have some kind of resume." And I had zero work experience. So what I did was I just wrote the resume like I was a road manager for a rock band. Okay. Because basically I did it at the beginning, take care of stuff like that. So I was a road manager and blah, blah, blah. And sure enough, they gave me an interview. I walk in, and the guy that was interviewing me, he says, "You're Frank Soda." So he knew me from Ottawa days or from back east days and stuff. And I still keep in touch with the guy, by the way. He was a higher up in Canada Post. So sure enough, so they hired me there. And this is what is helping me right now in my retirement, is that I get a pension from that. I was able to still play music like on weekends. I was still able to take time off. If I still wanted to, I would go every year and play with, like, say, the Max Webster guys and some of my old bandmates there. I would do shows like the Rock. I could still take time off to do tours. I could go when Thor moved back up here to Vancouver. I would go out tour with him a bit. But I was able to sort of keep my seniority number with the Canada Post. So when I retired early and stuff, but I'm able to have a little bit of a pension coming in from that. So between that and stuff that I do with Thor, I do some recording with him. I've done his last 6 or 7 albums, and doing stuff. There's not a heck of a lot of money in the heavy metal scene or nothing, but it was fun. It kept me, writing, creating, and doing stuff, and keeping my fingers moving. And then on top of that, I did a little duo with my wife. Like, we just played like classic cover stuff that we just enjoy doing, because that's a big scene out here in BC, pubs, So I just did that and learned how to MIDI all the instruments so I could just go out and play.
Oh, really? Okay.
I did that. So I had to kind of like really diversify,
Adjust, adapt.
Yeah.
What do you see as a challenge today for the up and coming bands, as far as, technology and the differences between the music industry back then and the music industry today? We know the obvious distribution issues and stuff like that, but also you can become famous overnight, really, by just putting a serious jingle together or getting picked up by a commercial or something like that. How have you seen the industry changed?
Well, to be honest with you, yes, it's good and bad. I think that the opportunity is there. Like another thing I've done is that I've helped, like, there's this young musician that I've helped. His name is Kerry Badgley, but he used to come over to my house. He's a friend of my son's, and he was creative, and he was always trying to do stuff. So I helped him. He's done a few like CDs and recording. So I try to help these young people to produce their music and give them insight in songwriting. If they don't, quite have a song that's quite there yet, I can help them out. And there was a girl that had a lot of potential that I met in one of these sessions. We do these like sort of jam sessions out here. I met her, and she was a phenomenal singer. She had everything, like, as far as like looking. She did all the anthems at the Vancouver Canucks games, and the BC Lions, and she could sing well, and she wanted to start a career. And I said to her, I says, the first thing you should do is you should send a demo. And so I helped her get a demo and do stuff. And then when I would go back and forth from Toronto, I'd bring it to some people that I knew, like out east, and I'd say, well, listen, this girl, here's her demo, here's her picture, here's her promo, blah blah blah. Well, the first thing they said was, just tell her to go and get like something, a heavy social media presence. That's what they said. Heavy social media presence, get like cameras in there, singing and playing, having this and that, and then start doing that. Then they'll take an interest.
Wow.
So that's what you have to do these days in order to do that. Or else you just sit in your basement. There's phenomenal people just sitting in their basements that can just sit there and just go, not a problem. You can do that all day long, But if you want to be a Justin Bieber, that's what you got to do, or any band,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the one-man bands like the Beck. I've got a guy I interviewed a couple of weeks ago who's a legend to me, but was virtually unknown. His name's called, well, it's Mike Anderson. His act is called Strange Juice. And,
Strange Juice.
Yeah, and he was inspired by Beck and the midis and laying down multiple tracks. So he does the drums, the guitars, the bass. He does everything and multi-tracks it and records it in his basement, or in his home studio. And for me, Calling Lucy was the song that hooked me. I don't even know where I found it, but he's virtually nobody online. Like, he's got hundreds and hundreds of songs, but he hasn't played live since 2012, and he was inspired by that. He said, I saw Beck doing it from his home, and I'm like, whoa.
Are you talking about Beck, the guy that you talk about Beck that did I'm gonna kill myself? What was that song?
Loser.
I'm a loser, baby. I love that song.
Yeah, well, he does. He's a one-man show. He's a one-man band. He plays all the instruments. Why Don't You Kill Me? That one there. Yeah. Well,
he's fantastic.
He's got some great stuff. I've just done a deep dive into his stuff lately too. But I was talking to Mike the other day on an interview, and he was saying, I just saw how Beck was doing it, and I'm like, geez, I'm gonna try and do that. And it's amazing.
Well, that's good if you can do that.
Yeah. Yeah, but
I think that is the way to do it.
Yeah. I want to close out with you letting us know what you're up to now, what could be coming up in the future. But I'm interested a little bit about, your family, your parents, what type of home you lived in, like how were you brought up, and then who'd you marry, and who are your kids now, and all that kind of stuff. Let people know what your life is all about.
Oh, sure. Well, like I said, I grew up in Kitimat up north, in Italian. My parents were Italian, and like I said, my dad was very, very educated. Very, he could speak English. He could do stuff at the time. He was musical. He could play, but he always tried to keep me away from it. So that's how I grew up. My mom, on the other hand, I was very close to her because she's always going, "Oh, come on, just let him do this."
Really? Yeah. Okay.
So it was one of those, things. And finally, of course, my dad gave up on me, and my mom said, "Okay, well, if you got to go hit the road and play guitar, go ahead." That type of idea. So I grew up in that, but it was actually, I kind of enjoyed Kitimat because there was there was a lot of when the Beatles came out, there was a lot of bands that would play like the Sock Hops, and I first went and saw musicians playing at these Sock Hops. I said, yeah, I know I can do that. I'd love to do that, So it was nice growing up in a town where there was a lot of music going on, to be honest with you. I mean, it was a small town, but every time I turned around, there was a battle of the bands, which I ended up getting involved in. And then we ended up winning the battle of the bands, and we had a band from Denmark. One year were the judges, and they had just come off tour with the Cream, and that really, speaking of inspiration, that really, man, that opened the whole door to like, what the heck is that guy doing? He's just jamming all this blues stuff. So it was a great opportunity there, and I still have sort of contacts up in Kitimat that I still keep in touch with. It was a small kind of town that was kind of close together. They remember me playing, and I remember them from from the days. And one fella, Jerry up there in Kitimat, he was a singer in a band that I knew, and Harry Crawley was the guitar player who had moved from, I think, Scotland or whatever. He was a really great guitar player, and later I found out that he had passed away. And so these are people that they helped shape what, like my playing. They helped shape what I wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
But the family growing up, was like I said, it was just a typical Italian family in a small working town. That's all it really was, And then, breaking my mom's heart, as soon as I could hit the road, I grabbed my guitar and I hit the road, So, but like I said, for music, these days, like I said, mainly I'm just trying to dig up old songs that or ideas that I had and trying to put it together. But the problem that I have is that with the COVID stuff that's hit, it gets pretty depressing sometimes, because I see like, what's going to be the end result? What do I really want to do? So I'm always second guessing. Should I do this? Should I do that? So that's what I'm going through right now myself, to be honest.
What
I was more a live type of player.
Oh, right. Okay. So yeah. So putting together a studio album isn't all that much inspirational for you.
Wow. The thing is that the guy that I worked with here, he just moved up to Kelowna area. Ray Roper used to play in a band called Stonebolt, and for the last 20 some years, I've always been going out with him and recording and doing stuff, and that's how I work best. I don't work best when I'm sitting in front of a screen like this,
mm-hmm.
and then putting ideas on and is this. I like working together with somebody, and it's the same when I did with like Mike Tilka from Max Webster produced Saturday Night Getaway album.
Oh, he did. Okay.
For example, like I work good going, okay, I got this. And then he say, okay, I like those ideas. And I go home and work on them. I like doing it like that with somebody else,
Mm-hmm.
It's not like I'm Todd Rundgren or like Frank Zappa. You know what I mean? Here's what I'm going to do. And I've always been that type of guy. I like bouncing stuff off,
Right.
And how I used to do it in my touring days was we would do stuff and just bounce it off the audience live. We'd play a song called TV People. Here we are, we play it. And if they like it, okay, then we keep it in the set. That type of idea. I still kind of kept that, that philosophy,
How many songs you figure you got down?
How many songs?
Yeah, over the history of your career. How many have you got that you put together?
Geez, I have literally got my albums alone, I have got like probably like 150 songs, really. But the ones that are finished, I would say maybe 45, 50 maybe tops.
Wow.
The ones that are really, like I say, these are the ones that have been out. Oh, 1 second, I just gotta cancel that. Sorry.
No problem.
So it's like this, and also I have songs with other people that I've written and helped or like some of these younger people that I've helped with their writing.
Mm-hmm.
And the Thor stuff, I've got quite a few on there. With Thor, since he moved back from North Carolina or South Carolina there, and in the 90s he moved back, and I was recording with him, but I found that some of the songs that we recorded were just to the point where we were demoing the song, and then it didn't go any further than that, So, but I recorded guitar on his last, say, 6 albums. And I still keep in touch with him. So we may do something else in the future too,
What's the connection to the Metal Queen, brother? Lee Aaron.
Lee Aaron?
Another one of my, she was legend when I was a kid, man. I've got a few of her albums, man.
Well, she's just a really nice lady, super nice. And I met her when we were at the Gasworks playing, and my manager wanted to manager her band. She looks phenomenal, sings phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
So she came out to the Gasworks and would do stuff. And she ended up singing on one of my projects that I was working
Hey,
on.
you guys had a show
manager.
together, didn't you?
Pardon?
You had a show together, didn't you?
We did the Adelaide Street, the Adelaide Street Theater, whatever it is. That one there with Lee Aaron, myself, and then members of Mox. I think Moxie was there. That was the singer.
The Frank Soda show, right?
Yeah, it was the Frank Soda show, and then but Lee Aaron was there with her band, and ironically, the guitar player in her band ended up becoming a guitar player in Los Angeles, and I'm back in touch with him as well too. I think Rick Springfield. He played with Rick Springfield. He ended up playing with Rick Springfield. I go, what the heck is he doing there? So we're in touch, doing that. No, she's fabulous. She did some recording on my thing, and then on her first album, my manager says we're going to get Rick Emmett of Triumph, we're going to get you, and we're going to get a couple other people, like local Toronto people. And I wrote a song for her on that, and I gave that to her. So
Nice.
we just sort of been kind of connected ever since. So
Wow.
even when she moved out here, I still see her. She's done a couple of these fundraiser things with me that I kind of put together every year with Ray Roper and a few other friends of mine.
Awesome, my brother. It was so good to talk to you. It's, and to meet the legend. I know it's on Zoom and stuff like that, but this is what it's all about now, man. So, and I don't think I'll ever get used to hearing you say my grandchildren. I'm like, what? Frank Soda can't be a grandfather. It's not possible.
I know. I know. It's with this COVID stuff, the way it is, you start reassessing your life, and you're going, oh my God, look at this. Like now I got one grandchild. That's all I have.
Okay.
And I got 2 kids. Yeah. Speaking of the family, I met my wife like when I was touring and stuff like that. I met my wife. And she was kind of a singer, and I met her when I was touring. But at the time that I was touring, she was with someone else, and so I didn't even know her at that time. And then a couple of then you go back and forth, and you tour. The next tour comes up 4 or 5 months later, and she wasn't with that fella, that type of idea. So that's how we started something. We started communicating. She was in Winnipeg there, and I was in Toronto.
Okay.
And then it ended up that we hit it off. We were. I was at about the right time when I kind of was sick and tired of all that same old going back and forth, crossing, blah, blah, blah. And, too much partying and stuff. And we kind of had that same headspace. And then we ended up with, like I say, 2 kids. And then, we raised when I came over here, we raised the kids. We still played music. I still, recorded and got to tour back and forth. So we still kind of managed to be able to do like all the things we wanted to do, without having to be like the Frank Soda show on the road type of idea.
Right.
Yeah. So I'm kind of fortunate in that way,
Family's everything, man. What do the kids do?
Okay. So my son, to be honest with you, my son right now, he's running 10 kilometers a day and dressed up as Santa Claus for the 12 days of Christmas. That's what he's doing right now. Because my son, he's been one of those guys that he was a very talented, he could play music and do stuff, but I never pushed him into it. I didn't want to do like, that you have to play. But he was very good at playing. He could do stuff, but he never really, took the effort to say, I'm going to sit down and really, spend my time in it, So he's been going from job to job and, spinning his wheels, blah, 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 And he ended up like doing security. That's what he ended up doing. He's 33. Like he ended up doing security, and that kind of kept him going. He would work Rogers Arena once in a while over here, like in Vancouver, and then he worked the festivals that happened. Okay. But when the COVID hit, all the festivals, all that stuff totally got canceled. What he ended up doing was, he ended up like getting with this Covenant House. And he became their Santa that's running throughout BC to raise money for this charity and stuff like that. So that's what he's doing at this point. So hopefully when this COVID stuff is over and stuff, he'll find himself something else to do. And my daughter, she's actually a nurse. She just got her LPN nurse just before this COVID hit, which was good. And then she's working at like a care home up, and it's really bad. Like there's a care home up here at the street here, and there's infections and everything. So it's not good, as far as that goes. So, but she does all the precautions. She wears all the gear. She wears all that stuff. She immediately comes home. She takes a shower. Doesn't even come in and say hi. That type of thing. Just in case.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, what's the impact been?
My family.
What's the impact been of that on you and your family? There's so many people struggling with mental health, with income.
The COVID?
Yeah, like it's been a challenge for many people. Whether it's just now we're covering our faces. I'm not sure how healthy that is, not to be able to see somebody's expression on their face. I mean, there's so many.
I don't know. Like I said, I don't wear the mask, but when I go outside in the fresh air.
No.
Unless there's a gang of people, like in a certain area or something like that, I don't wear the mask. I feel like that. But if I have to go somewhere where there's tons and tons of people, whatever it is, I just do it because that's what you're supposed to do. I don't know whether it is, the
that's
thing,
helping
but,
a little.
I do it.
Mm-hmm.
But the effect is that I find that with COVID, it's like prison. It's like it's just like if someone says to you, I'm going to send you to prison, you're going to have 4 walls there. You're going to stay there. But that's the negative side. But the positive side is you can do anything you want. You can get an education. You can learn an instrument. You can, you can study whatever you been wanting to study all your life, or you know what I'm saying, right? But the problem is that it's the paradox is that you're in the prison and you have no inspiration to do anything. So you got all the time in the world. That's what I feel I got now. All the time in the world to do whatever you want to do, but no inspiration to do it. That's the way I feel this lockdown.
Well, if you ever get in a studio that's got the, you can plug into Zoom and get your music in there, and you plop the box of beer down in the middle of the room, and you got all your friendlies, and you're going to bang out 5-song set or something like that, call me. I'll carry you, and I'd love to see you guys. You know what? I love the bloopers. I love the behind-the-scenes stuff, and I was talking about Strange Juice, Mike Anderson. He hasn't played since 2012, and I'm like, dude. But he says, Jimmy, I got to learn all my songs again. Like I make these songs. I don't play them forever. I have to go back and actually learn them before I can play them live. And I'm like, dude, put 3 easy ones together. I'll carry you live. I just want to see the guy play. So yeah, if you ever find yourself in a studio with broadcast ability, I'd love to pick you up.
Well, you know what? Maybe we can do that, because my old, the guy that I did the Saturday Night Getaway album with, he's actually doing something on Zoom. He's playing bass on an international field of musicians. They all submit their stuff by Zoom. See, I haven't done that, but he'll play bass on this song,
right?
And someone else in Scotland is playing mandolin. Someone else in London is playing a guitar. Someone else in Chicago is playing. And they put it all together like that. So one of the things I was thinking of doing is that when I was talking to some of my people when I'm recording, is picking certain songs that I can have, like maybe the guys from Max Webster be guests on one of my songs. Maybe like speaking of St. Catharines, Derry is the guitar player for Honeymoon Suite. He used to come to all my shows when the Imps used to hit St. Catharines. There's a place called Howard Johnson's, I believe. There was Howard Johnson's, the Montebello. I don't know if you remember those clubs. But anyway, we used to play there, and he was a local boy. But I might send it to him or Gary Lalonde. Hey, play a little bass on that. So get some friends, to sort of contribute that. But I'd have to get a bit more up to date with like you said, like being able to do it like with Zoom. But between like the people that I know, I'm sure we can do something. So who knows? Maybe that might happen.
I love you, my brother. I appreciate the time, man. It's great to meet you, and I appreciate you telling your story. So thanks for the time. Thanks for being so accessible and kind. You're like, yeah, I don't know about Zoom, but I'll try.
I'll try. Like I said, this is my first Zoom thing. So, hopefully in 2021, maybe like I said, I usually head back east, like I say, with the Max guys and catch up with all my old bandmates. So if that happens, I'll definitely we'll have to hook up.
Look me up, man. I'll be
right?
I'll be in the front row, just like 1983.
Well, let's do it. All right. Well, nice talking to you, Jim.
All right, brother. We'll talk again soon. I appreciate it.
Okay.
Thanks,
Bye.
Soda Man. Peace.
Bye.
All right, bro. I'm going to cut you out here and close out the stream. We're still live, but man, I appreciate your time and your generosity. That was so cool. And we'll see.
Yeah, I hope it was okay. Like I said, this is my first time doing anything like this. I've done this before with my friend that is helping me with my when I was trying to get my studio going again, like, because I hadn't really used it. Like I say, it was my friends using my friend's studio all the time. Now I got to go in there, and the technical part, I'm sort of terrible at it. So I got the Pro Tools, I got this. I had to do the Zoom thing in order for him to help me. Okay, now you got to do this, Frank. You got to do that. So that I have been using it for that, but that's about it, right?
Great, man. I hope your family's healthy, and I hope you live forever, my brother. It's
listen,
great to talk to you.
All the best to you and yours, okay?
All right. Cheers. We'll talk soon. Peace.
Okay, bye. I better go walk the dogs now.
Yeah, okay. See you, Soda.
Okay,
Peace.
see you.
Ciao.
See you, Jim.
Wow. Well, that did not suck for me. I don't know if you're as big a fan as I am, probably not, but Soda Man is one of my favorites. And go look him up online. Frank Soda on YouTube. Check out some of his music. And Skin Graph, is that what it's called? Yeah. Saturday night, some great tunes out there, and some good live footage too. I got a call out to Lee Aaron as well. I don't know, there's friends, maybe they'll put in a good word for me. I know she's really busy, but I'd love to have the Metal Queen on too. And who's this Thor guy? Sounds like he's accessible. Maybe I'll pick him up too. So it is 3:16 p.m. on the East Coast EST. And that was the Soda Man. You can find him here on Fakebook. Oops. You don't want oops. See, this is why I don't pull up my Fakebook. This is Soda Man. Check him out. I don't know if you remember this guy, but this is a Canadian legend in the music industry. And just cranked. He was just so generous and immediately accessible. So I appreciate that. Thank you, Mr. Soda, the one and only. Tomorrow, Ryan Lunn is in the booth. He's going to play live and talk. We're not going like super high tech as far as the live goes, or even going to focus all that much on it. But Ryan Lunn, we had to cancel him last week. I hate to cancel interviews. I hardly ever do it, but I had to last week. And so tomorrow is Tuesday, 12 p.m. EST. The Jim Fannon Show goes live with the one and only Ryan Lunn. Peace, love, hug your neighbor, and why don't you rip that diaper off your face? It's not working.